for the local team, Spain Drone Team.
Sea Sky and their opponents were the China Dragons, who chose Kenrick Lin, Lego Clone number 1, Creator, and Chryson. That's how China Dragons lined up to race against SDT in Prop Town. Let's go for the first race of the series. 1v1. 2 pilots picked to race this out were Clone number 1 and Danube. Which I think it's fair to say at this stage in 2023 are probably the strongest pilots of each of these teams. The only reason I hesitate is because Silvio has been racing amazingly well. Danube has been the best pilot for SDT for years. Silvio is having an excellent season and may even outscore Danube this season, but I'm giving Danube the benefit of the doubt because he's been so good for so long. Lego Clone number 1 has really come up through the ranks of Xblades. Very much a sort of supporting pilot for a while. You know, making it into the roster and making it to the start of race days. Oh! That's an unfortunate bump for Clone. Like making the starting roster every race now in 2023, which is excellent from him. Clone now with a lot of work to do, as we're flying with him a little bit twitchy there. That's not quite as smooth on the corkscrews as it could be. It's very good, don't get me wrong, but Danube is 3 and a bit more out in front in the middle of lap number 2. Here's his corkscrew over, barrel roll over there, and then that's the alleyway, which had a few bumps in it earlier on. Into the park he flies. By the way, everybody joining us here on Twitch tonight, what should we call this park? It doesn't have a name. I have referred to it as Central Park, but obviously that's not its name. It could be Matt's Park, but I'm just throwing that out there. You'll get to see it again on lap number 3 with Danube now 4.6 seconds ahead. What should we call the park? What can we call the fountain? What can we call the sculpture? Shade Adams, our track designer, may well be hovering around chat and letting me know what he thinks they're called, but I'm interested to know what you'd like to call them, everyone. Danube, 5, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. What's happening to Clone number 1? Danube has got this dialed in. Here's Clone number 1. Not looking too slow. A little bit twitchier than I've seen him, though. Prop Town perhaps not coming so easily to him as he would like. There's the fountain. There's the climb after the artwork. Smashing to the statue park. Ooh. Yeah, that's a start. Yeah, that could work. Gabri, you hit that statue a few times. Is that what you're telling me? And Danube looks delighted with that. It's a big win over Clone number 1. He caught him a little bit before it was all over, but by no means enough. So the first point went to Danube and SDT. Let's go for the 2v2. In this one, Silvio and Sea Sky come in. So 2 different pilots. They chose not to put Danube in for the first 2v2. And on the opposite side, it's Creator and Clone. So Clone stayed in the racing seat. And Silvio is flying that excellently. Danube great again, says STT. Yep. Yeah, that was a really important point for you. Silvio is flying very well. Mako Reactor is here, everybody, from Mach 1. The big boss of Mach 1. Hello, Mako Reactor. Lovely to see you with us. Silvio, still over Sea Sky. Then Clone and Creator. All very close to each other. Creator with a bit more work to do, just slipped a little bit out of the contention. But Sea Sky, Clone, Silvio, all of them hopping in and out of the lead. 3 quads very near to each other. Less than a tenth between Silvio and Clone sometimes. Silvio has got that dialed in beautifully. Nicely done. Through the pillars there. That's caught 1 or 2 pilots out, but not him. Silvio, Clone is still with you. Clone after having a few bumps last time. That's an angle. Silvio goes around the whole thing laterally. I like that. There's the fountain. He's also dodged the middle. I've seen pilots just go straight through the middle of the fountain. Many, many times. Every time we've used this track in one orientation or another. I've never seen anybody dodge the center of the fountain until today. Oh, I like that dive. Silvio going for it. He has to because Clone's in front of him. They've got the rest of this lap, remember. Clone just nudged in front of Silvio. Silvio is not giving anything up here, though. Silvio's moved on him all the time. He's caught him through the corkscrew, went in behind and came out in front of him. Silvio's got that dialed. I love it. Silvio over the top, Clone number 1. Gotta take him, and not much time to do it as we go into what is currently called Smashing to the Statue Park. Through the artwork there, Silvio still in front of Clone. He couldn't catch Danu, but he was a long way behind. Can Clone catch Silvio? We're on board with him now. He hasn't got much vision on him. He's on the inside of him. That's why 0.003 of a second. 2 different routes to the rooftop. Run for the finish gates. Clone! Oh, what a finish. Everybody in really quickly as well. Oh, let's see that again with the Mac cam. That's what I'm calling it. I wonder if he'll beat him this time. Check this finish out right now. Silvio's in front by 0.003 of a second. You can see it. Then into the dive. Oh my word, 0.53 between them at the end. Look at the smile on Lego Clone, as you would expect. Oh, what a race. What a race. Oh, that was excellent. Excellent racing. Applaud both teams. Applauding both teams. Thank you for giving us these kind of races, everyone. Let me know if you're enjoying Flight Night. We've got loads more races to come yet. We'll stick with this series. And on race day 4 in Prop Town, SDT beat China Dragons in that 1v1. You've just seen China Dragons even it up. China Dragons won the other 2v2 as well. So let's check out... oh, yeah, and they also won the big heat. So 3 points to 1 for China Dragons. SDT have got to win this race. The 2v2, the 5th race of the series, Silvio and Blessed against Clone again, and this time Kenny's racing with him. Kenrick Lin out of Indonesia and in the lead. Silvio takes it from him, then it's Clone, then it's Blessed. We haven't seen Blessed in so many races, but he's performing solidly, I think. Squid's here with us as well. Hello, Squid. The Ice Cheetah reckons that was a great race. I know. What a good race. Let's see now. So it's pressure time for SDT PERPETUUMCOIN here. China Dragons 3-1 up. Remember, these are all best of 7s. So SDT have got to win this one. That dive through the top. It's tidy by Silvio. It doesn't feel as fast as it was before. He's got that different route again. But the pull, the invert as he goes for the dive down to street level is glorious. Look at that, all 4 of them weaving their way through the first of the cubes. We make it to the Fox here turn. Let's see some corkscrews. We're on board with Silvio, who's got I've said it before, just dialed in. His route across here is nice. He's got Kenny for company. Star's wishing Kenny all the best. Star 23467 in the chat, used to be the captain of China Dragons, knows these boys well. Star now races for Xblades. You'll see him later on in the show. But willing on his old teammates, I love to see it. We're on our way up in the latter stages of lap number 2. Coming through the rooftop. Kenny trying to catch Silvio. Ooh. Spain drone team. Silvio had a different track in the last gate, but it wasn't a better one. Tried to change it, couldn't adapt. Okay. I've got to say, Silvio's got some very, very smooth flying. This is Kenny trying to chase him. Look, Kenny's flying that excellently, Kenrick FPV. Oh, but it's come wrong for him afterwards. I was just praising how well he'd done the corkscrew and how well Silvio is doing it, because even though Kenny was flying it so well, he hadn't caught Silvio. Can Clone catch him? This is aggressive flying by Clone. Oh, I'm enjoying that. It's 0.6 of a second. There's not much left to go. Clone's got the lead. Silvio's got to catch him. I think Clone's got the win here.
Dang.
Yes.
He does. To a gentle bit of support from his China Dragons teammate. Silvio ended up in the last place out of that. Let's go back. Need a name for this. I'm calling it MatCam. Doing my own analysis now. Where did you... On the route up here. Clone's in the lead there. What happened to Silvio? Yeah, it's just around the statue. It's just around the statue. Just slightly held up Silvio. He just bumped off a little bit of it. So this is Clone 0.6 of a second in front of him. And then Silvio somewhere got passed by Blessed.
Yes.
And I think the rhythm has gone as he's down to the back of things now. Not rubbing it into Silvio, just wanted to see where Clone got him, and it was on the statue. And with that, of course, that means China Dragons, they were 3-1 up. They become the winners of the series against SDT. Congratulations to the China Dragons. Good racing from all of the guys. 4-0 for Quad Force 1 over Alpha Prop. Haven, as you saw, STT, as you saw, and wildcard teams. Raiden, the other team racing, against Mac 1 on race day 4, and that was a 4-0 as well, which, disappointing to see. Mac 1 team still struggling to get some impact on the season. They find themselves at the bottom, just behind Alpha Prop, only by 1 race. Xblades were out in the front after race day 4. 16 wins, 2 races dropped. Quad Force 1, 15 and 6, and on 3 points. That's 3 match-up wins, along with Cyclone, STT, and China Dragos. It's all nice and close there. Race day 5 would see us go to Vaduz in Liechtenstein. Our match today features our Spanish friends STT PERPETUUMCOIN, whose roster includes Shrimpy Boy, Silvio, Danube, who's their captain and been absolutely essential in previous years for scoring for them, and we welcome you to the DCL Youngie Han, flying as HYG FPV from Korea. Their opponents, it's those 2-time world champions from Japan, Raiden Racing, with this deadly lineup who we've seen win championships for them. Longcat, Vincent Mines, Costa FPV, and IQ0. A huge challenge for anybody. They haven't had the best of starts though. They're languishing a little bit down the leaderboard, so they're looking to pick up a lot of points today. Let's take a look around Vaduz, the capital of Liechtenstein, where the DCL has had many real-life races before. This is exactly what it looks like. There are 2 and 3 DCL gates here before we head our way up and over the rooftops, double back on ourselves here through the first of the 2 Liechtenstein gates there, around the roundabout, through the Foxear gate, and past the Parliament building. That right there is the real Parliament building of Liechtenstein, and next door to it, of course, the government building. We'll be looping our way through there too. Up and over the rooftops, 2 DCL gates down through Torval's 4 gates here, 3 DCL arches the other way, then back on ourselves again, and this complicated obstacle, which is a right-hand ladder to exit before making our way along the streets and into the landing ramp here. A hard left 180, there's a lot of 180s in this, a corkscrew there, and now we're on to the second lap. So let's get into this then. STT PERPETUUMCOIN against Raiden Racing. The 1v1 to kick it off is between Silvio and Vincent Mayans. STT PERPETUUMCOIN, Silvio in green, Mayans flying for Raiden Racing in yellow. Very close start as you'd expect between these 2 experienced pilots. It's just 100th between them out of the starting gate. We're finding our way down through the Liechtenstein pair and around the roundabout, 7,000ths between them, through the Foxear gate, past Parliament. A hard 180 there and a little bit bumpy for Silvio, but it's still only a 1/10 of a second between him and the leader, Vincent Mayans. So you can see how aggressively he's recovered from that little bump there. Up over the rooftops, 1/10 of a second still. Here comes a couple of hard 180s. There's the first. The second is good for both of them. Silvio's just dropped a couple of 10ths as they'll find their way into the ladder now. 3/10, 4/10 behind. Into the landing ramp. Silvio goes in, gets caught by one of the railings over the top. A little bit too high through the ramp. He's clipped that. That's lost him a lot of time. He's 1.3 behind as we go only now onto the start of the second lap. So plenty of race still to go. Through the DCL gates has flown Mayans. 1.2 seconds between them as he'll go round the roundabout. He'll see Silvio coming towards him. Silvio, though, with a lot to do, and he's flying very aggressively. He's going to need Mayans to slip up a little bit, you would think. You can see him right in front of him there, but it's still 1.1 seconds between the 2. Up over the rooftops, going to need an aggressive dive out. And then great work on these 180s. There's the first, and the second is good for Silvio too, but maybe not quite as tight as Mayans. The ladder is excellent from Silvio, and he's managed to cut 2/10 off that gap in doing so, but no, into the landing ramp again. All that hard work from Silvio. And he's dropped it now on lap 3, 4.4 seconds and falling. It's very interesting to see that these are the 2 pilots that are starting this series. Vincent Mayans going in on the 1v1. We've seen him win many opening races so far this season. Silvio has been brilliant in scoring points too for STT PERPETUUMCOIN. But Danube, their captain, has always been the standout performer. I would have expected Danube to step up and do this 1v1, but Silvio's put in a great showing for them here. And of course, we've got a lot more races to go in this best of 7. I don't think Mayans is going to come undone at this late stage. Silvio, to his credit, is half a second closer than he was. And I think there's some credit there also into Mayans, who may have just backed off a little bit. And Silvio now way behind. He's been caught out again. Meanwhile, Mayans finds the finish gate.
Good job. Good race.
And the first point of the day.
Very good run.
All a little bit low-key in celebration for Raiden Racing. They've got to get some more points this season. They know it. Vincent's off to the best of starts. For the first of the 2v2s, it's Danube and Shrimpy Boy against Costa FPV and Longcat. This is also an interesting lineup because quite often teams will use the pilot who's flown in the opening 1v1 as the first pilot in the 2v2s, but neither team are doing that here. We've got Longcat and Costa for Raiden in yellow through the Liechtenstein pair of the gates, and Danube hot on their heels. As you can see, he's already caught Costa right behind Longcat. Costa moving around too. This is super close flying, and Danube's just slipped into the lead past the Raiden pilots now. We're on board with Costa. He's got Longcat and Danube in front of him. Shrimpy Boy just struggling to keep up at this stage, but it is all close and exciting up front for Danube. Into the ladder he goes with Costa and Longcat right behind him. We'll head now towards the landing ramp that caught his teammate out last time, but not here. The corkscrew coming. We're going with Longcat wide and into it. That's held him up. Costa's had a rough one there too. Danube is almost a second clear of both of them. Shrimpy Boy's caught Longcat as it's gone from bad to worse for him. Into the second lap with Danube having some clear skies. We're on board with Costa as he chases Danube around the roundabout now. Through the Foxeer gate towards Parliament. Back on themselves at that 180, and then we rise up towards the Liechtenstein Castle. Danube finding his way between the two really important buildings here in Vaduz that we've flown around in real life so many times. Not damaged either of them, I'm pleased to say, although we did end up being an exhibit in a museum unintentionally. That's a different story. You can find that on our live streams. Into the landing ramp, Danube, 0.7 of a second between him and Costa. So Costa's a little bit closer than he was, and we're on to the third lap now. A lot of pressure on Danube. And he's gone into the sky, clipping one of the pylons, which has let Costa slip by. It's almost 0.7 of a second in the opposite direction now. Costa in the lead. Danube wants that back. Around the roundabout we go. Longcat is too far behind this pair of pilots, and so is Shrimpy Boy to have any impact at this stage on the win of this race. And you can see the green drone of Danube is coming for Costa. That gap has halved. Costa's made an excellent job of doing the drop there, and he'll come over the top of the buildings to head this way with Danube even closer again. Danube is just gnawing away at that deficit a little bit here and there. This is a really technical turn, which has worked out brilliantly for Danube. He's almost taken the lead at the last stages now, and Costa into the wall of the landing ramp. Danube's got this one. Looks so pleased in the top right of your picture. Costa looks gutted. That race was his for Raiden, he thinks. Just slipped up on that ramp. It's a really important win for Danube, as with that, SDT tie up the series with the world champions. So in the second 2v2, the other pilots race. Silvio returns with HYG FPV. Vincent Mayans returns for Raiden with IQ0, who is going skywards. He's out of this race. What happened with IQ0? Off the blocks to the sky, missed the first turn. He's 2.5 seconds behind. Baffling what happened at IQ0 there. Just maybe got this track really muddled up. Mayans, his teammate, doing what Mayans does, trying to get points and wins for the team, but he's got Silvio for company. Remember, they're the two pilots who raced each other in the 1v1 earlier on. It's super close with them again already. Less than 1/10 of a second between them. Here's that hard right through the DCL arches and back the other way into this complicated ladder. That's not the obstacle that Silvio was having trouble with. This is the one that caught him out 2 or 3 times last time. He's clean so far and just challenging for the lead with Mayans. They are so close together as we start lap number 2, and Silvio just tries to stretch away. Mayans going to have to do everything he can, as when Silvio is flying cleanly, he's flying really fast. He is starting to stretch away. To the roundabout, good entry in from Mayans, perhaps a little bit wide halfway through. Looks like it was better for him than Silvio, and that gap is closing. Silvio higher around the pylons here, Mayans underneath him. Silvio perhaps doesn't realise how close Mayans is. It's 1/10 of a second as we go to the rooftops. The dive down is good. Here come those 180s that Silvio's been very quick on, but Mayans is always good around slaloms and tight corners. He's stolen so many race wins from pilots. And I think he's stealing the lead here, just coming off the end of the ladder and into the landing ramp is good for him. It's still good for Silvio. This battle's going to go into the third lap. It's just 1/100th of a second between them now. Different route in for Silvio than Mayans around that first pylon. Still the same kind of gap between them. They're both flying at the absolute limits here. Down through Liechtenstein's pair of gates, around the roundabout. Mayans fractionally ahead of Silvio. Slightly more wobbly on the route after that, though, which has meant Silvio is right with him. Nothing can be given here. One tiny mistake, never mind a big one, and it's going to cost you the win. Silvio rushes down, tries to get on the inside of Mayans. Almost does it on the first of the 180s, almost does it on the second. Into the ladder now, and Silvio, no! Caught the top of it, lost a lot of time, that's broken him. Mayans will keep it till the end again.
Oh, good job, Vincent. Good job.
One.
And his teammates congratulate him as he had Silvio for company and tight company all the way through. Commiserations to him. Well done to Vincent, who gets another point for his team in black and yellow. Let's take a look at IQ0. Just caught that first pylon, just bumped him skywards and never featured after that. It's time for the legendary Big Heat, where all 4 pilots from each team are racing at the same time. 1 point just for the win of this. And Silvio and Vincent Mayans, you know, are going to try and feature in that point-winning place. Danube up there as well. Longcat was in 4th to slip down to 7th. IQ0 really hasn't got his head around Verdutz's racetrack yet. So we'll look up front with Silvio, who's in the lead. Costa right behind him. And then Shrimpy Boy having a much better run of it. Danube for XDT is out of the picture at the moment. 3 seconds behind. Silvio bumps over the rooftop. Doesn't manage to keep the lead. He's been passed by his teammate Shrimpy Boy. Costa's just a little bit ahead of all of them. 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second. Out of the ladder he goes. Silvio's done a little bit of good work there, as we saw earlier on, and he's actually really good at catching pilots on the ladder. He's aggressively attacking the corkscrew as we ride on board with him, and that's a pylon that has caught a few pilots out today. Costa's now got 2 seconds almost of clean Verdut's beautiful crisp air. Around he goes, around the roundabout. We'll have seen green drones heading into the roundabout underneath him as he exited. That's a good place for Costa to realise that he's got quite a lot of time in hand down through the drop between the two buildings. It's all good. It's over 2 seconds for him now. He makes his way along the first of these straights, back through the arches, and then a hard 180 again. And that's another position where you get to see pilots in your peripheral vision and realise, okay, they're pretty far behind. He has bumped his way around that ladder, though, caught it at least once. And that's given Silvio half a second's worth of catching up time. And it's closing even more. Silvio makes it around that pylon as he had trouble with at the start of lap number 2 and is coming for Costa at speed. One more lap of this to go. Costa under a little bit more pressure. Does he realise it? Maybe he does. Maybe that's why he's just crashed down the side of the building, but managed to keep the lead thanks to that massive gap he had earlier on. Silvio hard turn into the gate. Oh, he was getting so close, but Costa will get away again. It's back to 2 seconds between them. Costa's just got to shake off any nerves he had about the ladder, which he bumped around earlier on. We'll see if he takes it a little bit safer now. He can't give it up by much. It's perhaps a little bit wider. Definitely safer. It's worked out for him. Silvio comes to this ramp out of it really early and hits the ground. It's not the ramp, it's the ground that got Silvio there. Now, HYG has actually passed him for second. Costa with the outright win. Quads bumping out of that finish gate onto the ground.
Don't worry.
Costa will breathe a sigh of relief and a hard-earned point for Raiden. So after 4 races of this best of 7, Raiden are 3 points to 1 in the lead. So now we'll go to 2v2s. This time HYG and Danube race against Vincent Myers and Costa FPV. This could be really hotly contested based on what we've seen from these pilots so far. HYG was coming alive in that last one. Danube makes his way towards Lexicine. Yellow drone popping in and out of in front of him. Can't let that put you off. Through Fox here, hard 180s, a bit wider into the DCL gate. Sent him to the floor, sent him to the back. HYG is now the leading drone for the greens of SDT, but Myans is away from him by 1.2 seconds. Danube back into the race, back past HYG. That all looks very promising until you realise it's 2 seconds behind this man. Oh, this race could be over before we even reach lap number 2, as Myans is very unlikely to make any mistakes based on the flying we've seen him do today, based on the flying we've seen him do this season so far, and in all the previous seasons when he's raced with the DCL. Danube just can't get onto that turn. Such an experienced pilot, he can definitely make a simple turn like that. He's just literally giving this everything he's got, as he knows he or his teammate HYG have to get the point right now, or SDT lose this duel with Raiden Racing. And it's sideways aggressive flying for Danube, but the gap is just bigger and bigger as Vincent Myans, previously known as Thunder FPV, He is away through our 180s, and that, as I mentioned earlier, is a good spot to see what kind of a lead you've got. There's no green drones anywhere to be seen close to him. Diving down through the landing gates, through the corkscrew. It's all nice and tidy, and it's 3.6 seconds ahead of Danube. Now 3.3. Mines is definitely backing off just a little bit. Danube, you know, isn't backing off at all. You've seen how aggressively he was flying earlier. Around the roundabout we go with Mayans, who still can't see any green drones for company. His teammates will be telling him that's because you've got a massive lead. Otherwise, you just have this little feeling in your mind like, wait, are they so close to me that I can't see them in my peripheral view because they're above me or below me? No, in this one, Mayans, it's all on him to get this point. And with that, the series for Raiden. Let's take a look at his view around the ladder. That's how you do it. And the exit of that is not hanging around. He'll come up to the corkscrew now. Good approach for that, and a great approach to the finish gate. 4.8 seconds before SDT get in there with Danube. Then HYG will finish, and Costa FPV's had an absolute shocker there. Vincent Mayans wins the race and the series for Raiden Racing. Congratulations, Raiden Racing from Japan, the two-time reigning world champions, with a very important win here on race day 5. 3 of the points won by Mayans, Costa getting the one in the big heat, Danube, the only one of STT PERPETUUMCOIN, to score. Elsewhere on race day 5, big upset in the second series. Previously, Haven had a 4-3 thrilling match where they beat Wildcard Team, but now Wildcard Team have completely wiped them 4-0 on their second meeting this season. 4-0 also for Xblades, big upset with Cyclone beating China Dragons 4 points to 1. China Dragons, remember, beat Raiden at the very opening race of the season. Xblades have 5 wins out of 5, and they've only dropped 2 races at all. Then it's the American team at Quad Force 1, and then our newcomers Cyclone Racing make a great impact. That series we just saw has seen Raiden move up with SDT. China Dragons are fighting for 6th place alongside the DCL Wildcard team. SDT versus Cyclone is going to be very interesting. That's 4th versus 3rd currently. Quad Force 1 against Xblades. That's a previous World Championship decider. SDT PERPETUUMCOIN, a team who were a wildcard team a few years ago. And now one of the permanent teams in the DCL and having their best season. They were joint top of the leaderboard a few race days ago. Very much in the fight of things at the moment. For this race day 6, Silvio, Danube, Blessed and Sea Sky. The same 4 pilots of the 8 on their roster. The same 4 as they chose for the last race we saw them in. They're up against Cyclone. Cyclone Racing, the best of the new teams, joining the DCL this year when we expanded to 10 teams. Zion, Astronaut, J-Box and the Ice Cheetah. Those are the 4 pilots you saw in the opening race of today. Their series around Pulpit Rock begins, as all of our best of 7s do, with a 1v1. A few of them have been a bit one-sided. As I've told you before, I haven't seen any of the races that we're showing tonight because I wanted to commentate them live for you, with you. But we are going to show the opening 1v1, which means it's a good one. So, STT PERPETUUMCOIN, Silvio in green, behind the Ice Cheetah flying for Cyclone in purple. Peter Powers in the chat was excited to see some of Cyclone's racing. We're seeing a lot from them tonight. They've given us quite a few close races. Silvio had an early bump in this track. He's the guy in the top right of your picture who's flying so well for Spain Drone Team. The Ice Cheetah. I'm admiring how well he's lit his green screen, if I'm honest with you. He's flying the purple drone, though. Don't get confused. 0.7 of a second over Silvio, down through all of the arches. 2 more, and then the turn here. We'll go on board with Silvio and see how he likes this hurdle. It looks like he's going to come up early for it. He does. That's good work, but the Ice Cheetah made it quick as well. Then you've got this straight bit here where you're itching to go a little bit further and a little bit faster. Just like, he's right there in front of me, but not a lot you can do about trying to gain them in a section like that. Silvio, 0.7 of a second behind onto the start of lap number 2. Following the Ice Cheetah through all of these gates. He's just always there, right in the middle of his vision. Let's have a look at the route up to the rocks. We've seen some wildly different ones from some people today. It's good from the Ice Cheetah. 0.8 of a second now. Silvio just needs to make some corners like this one really count for him. And Silvio has just had the best season he's ever had with Spain Drone Team. He's been flying so well. It's always been Danube who's been the standout performer for that team. But honestly, Silvio is I think he's even outscoring Danube at this stage. Now he's 0.5 second behind. He has gained a little bit. You don't need to be in the front for the whole race. You just want to be in the front at the end, don't you? Let's have a look at this section here. I say the straight bit. What I mean by that is, I mean, it's as straight as you want to try and make it, really. You can go very low to the rocks and try and make it very direct, but obviously that's a little bit dangerous. Silvio, 0.3 of a second behind you, is also pretty dangerous. Check their routes up as they make their way through this closed DCL gate in front of them. Are they going to swing a little bit separately again? They do. Silvio's trying to get a bigger swinging turn through that closed air gate, which gives him more speed on the exit. But of course, it's taken him fractionally longer to get there. And I think they've both basically made the same amount of time there. Ice Cheetah, 0.4 of a second ahead of Silvio. We're just about to start our descent down onto the second half of this lap. Bambi's in chat, cheering him on. Bambi's enjoying the racing from the Ice Cheetah. Silvio's a little bit closer to him than he has been at any stage. Now 0.1 of a second. Coming through the arches. How has he managed to find this time? Get on the turn here. Get early on the hurdle like we saw him do. And it might be less than 0.1 of a second between them. It's not quite. Good turn around the hurdle, but the Ice Cheetah's got him behind him the whole time. And it's still behind him. Over the lake. A little bit higher for Silvio. The Ice Cheetah into the ladder. It's going to have to be brilliant by both of them, and it is. Silvio made it a little bit quicker, but there's not enough time, or is there? Oh, Silvio! So close at the end, the closest he'd been all race. But the Ice Cheetah kept it together until the end. What a 1v1. No one wants to see Silvio in your rear view mirror, says Bambi. I love the racing by both of them. Can we see some more? Race number 2 in this series, a 2v2, of course. Cyclone picking the Ice Cheetah to stay on, and J-Box to join him. Spain Drone Team doing what we saw them do earlier on. The pilot who was in the 1v1 is switched out for the 2 of the other pilots to come in. So it's Sea Sky, Marcel Isha, who was part of the DCL wildcard team many years ago when I think we raced around the bull ring in Madrid in one of our real-life races. We actually raced around the most famous bull ring, and we inverted it. We put the racing around where the seats are, and we stood the audience in the middle. Had a bit of an oval circuit with a few switchback turns and some gates and so on. It was brilliant. Ice Cheetah doesn't have Silvio for company. Has Danube and Sea Sky very close to him, and J-Box, who I've been praising as the best pilot on Cyclone's team so far this season, is not in the front in the action yet. But if he has a race anything like the one we saw him just do a little bit earlier on in Vaduz, he might get a win. The Ice Cheetah with Danube. They're far apart from each other, but in time they're both exactly the same. But the Ice Cheetah clipping the rocks, you can see the sparks. That's lost him a chunk of time. And that's slowed down one of the other pilots. It's Danube, the captain of SDT. So he's now chasing the Ice Cheetah, who's chasing Sea Sky for the lead. And J-Box not in the picture, or is he coming now? He's still over a second behind, but he just swept across the screen. Has a habit of turning up towards the end of a race. Sea Sky, 0.5 second between him and the Ice Cheetah. Then Danube, the other green quad. Looking like a different route there for the Ice Cheetah. It's worked for him. He's closed the gap a little bit, and Danube has also caught him a little bit. J-Box has slipped further behind. I suspect he's throwing everything he's got at this to try and desperately close the gap, and it may have backfired for him. On to the third lap now. Seasky still ahead of the Ice Cheetah, and briefly, Danube was ahead of the Ice Cheetah as well, but now it's all flipped around. The Ice Cheetah leads them on the climb. He's gone a different route than we've seen him do before. He's doing the route that Silvio was doing earlier. That's given him half a second now. He may have learned from the previous race to try swinging it in, and it's worked out brilliantly. We're on board with Danube. Seasky is out of the picture now. He's hit a rock on his chase and lost too much time. Danube, 0.4 of a second, trying to catch him on the dive. 0.3 of a second as they'll swing through the gate and head to the arches. Still 0.3 of a second. Little bit twitchier. Danube really going for this now. He's going to make the early turn on the climb up under the hurdle. Can he cut inside the Ice Cheetah? No, the Ice Cheetah flies it excellently as well. Cheetah through the gate. Danube almost side by side from him. We're looking at the long shot over the wall. Through the Torvald pair is good. The Ice Cheetah was good on the ladder earlier. Danube got him on the inside. Can he hold it to the finish? He does! And look at the reactions of Danube on the right, and the Ice Cheetah can't stay in his seat. He will be devastated to lose that race to Danube. We're going to take a DCL flashback. Take a look here. That's where it happened. Let's take a look at that again. Swinging under the hurdle. The Ice Cheetah, 0.4 of a second ahead of Danube. Coming through this DCL gate, no problem. Still 0.4 of a second. Heading out over the water. Just a little bit closer, but now we come into this. Look at this early turn by Danube. Look how much he's already swung around. There's the Ice Cheetah basically still in front of him. But I think Danube's got the more direct route out. 0.005 of a second was the difference as they came out of that. Nothing really. What's the track called? Asked Peter Paz. This is Rise and Shine around Pulpit Rock. Danube getting the points. We'll jump ahead to the big heat between these two teams. Cyclone won the 1v1. You just saw Danube win a 1v1, win the 2v2 for STT. They won the other 2v2 following that as well. So we'll go into the fourth race with a 2-1 lead for Spain Drone Team. Let's see if the other pilots, Seasky, Blessed, Zion, Astronaut, see how much of a feature they can make. Can J-Box get off to a more of a solid start and get up into the thick of the action? He's with Zion in 4th and 5th. Silvio and Danube, I dare you to try and pick which one of those is going to outfly the other. And the Ice Cheetah, really strong performance from him. The Ice Cheetah, you're with us in the chat. What's going on in your mind during this race, and how is the team sort of preparing for all this stuff? You're doing so well as a team. We're hopefully going to have a chat with Zion later on in the show. Nice Cheetah here. Just ahead of Silvio, as you saw. Silvio possibly, yeah, just on the inside of him around his corners, but not managing to get away. Down through this closed air gate. Then we head to a second one before the rest of the climb. Here it is. We're on board with Silvio, seeing Ice Cheetah go a little bit more direct that time. Not the swing around that he did before. This looks so smooth from Silvio. You can see he's barely doing any adjusting there. Just getting his lines, curving his way through. Smooth is fast, as some of our pilots like to say. MCK, my good friend from Korea, just goes fast is fast. Silvio in the lead. Then the Ice Cheetah. Or not. They're side by side. 0.02 of a second between them. Through Torvald 1 and then the second one coming up. The Ice Cheetah just swinging all over Silvio's view. That's what I'm saying about Silvio's run. Look how clean that is. The Ice Cheetah swinging left and then right and then left. And Silvio is not swinging around at all. Interesting that these pilots are flying it slightly differently, but the gap is so small between them. Third lap now. Can the Ice Cheetah beat Silvio here? It's 2-1 to STT PERPETUUMCOIN. Ice Cheetah or Silvio? 1/10, 3/300ths of a second. This is just going to run and run. Look at this. Is anybody going to make a mistake? The way they've been flying around is, you wouldn't think so. It's just going to come down to the better technical turns. Like Silvio's routing on here wasn't good enough to try and take the Ice Cheetah. Just a little bit wider, a little bit longer. And the Ice Cheetah managed to sew it all up really neatly. Look at the route on the inside there for Silvio, though. 5/1000ths of a second between the two of them now. Who comes out of the hurdle the better? It's the Ice Cheetah. We're into the last stages of this now. Silvio can still see the Ice Cheetah in front of him. Still see these differences in flying. Silvio's picking his line early and sticking to it. The Ice Cheetah is constantly fighting. Silvio's come out of the ladder ahead of him. The road for the finish gate. It's a point for the green team again. At the end again. Against the Ice Cheetah again. Oh! Oh, Silvio gets him there. We're gonna take a fly back. In the ladder. It's the ladder again. The Ice Cheetah still in front of Silvio all of this time. In front of him. But look at the early turn here from Silvio. Comes out just so close to each other. But then the turn is to the left. And Silvio's on it. And the Ice Cheetah beaten again at the end. Gotta feel sorry for him. Are you still with us in the chat, Cheetah? Would love to see how you were after those two races. Danube a little further down in fourth. Silvio, his teammate, getting the win. We'll go to the next 2v2. At this stage, it's 3-1 for SDT. Remember, these are all best of 7 duels. All best of 7s. So at this stage, with SDT being 3-1 up, Cyclone have to win this race and the other races. Will we get to the end of a best of 7? Cyclone says the ladder is not our friend. Bambi, what's Stavanger like as a place? But it is exactly like this. This is a true rendered scan. We scan the places for real, both the harbour and the countryside here. It's gorgeous. This is somewhat remote, as Shane Adams was saying earlier on. Rise and shine, because that's climate at 3 AM. Because it takes so many hours to get there, and it takes an awful long time to scan it. So that turned into a very long day. And it's a glorious place, a great place to visit. Lovely harbour. Oh! Now, let's get back into the racing. Ice Cheetah is winning over Blessed. Then it's Astronaut, and Danube went to the rocks. Otherwise, I could see this one going and going and going, with Danube hopefully not breaking the Ice Cheetah's heart at the end with a final turn and winning him on the last ladder again. So this is strength of character here. The Ice Cheetah's got green drones attacking him again. Astronaut is a little bit further behind, a second or so. And the Ice Cheetah has just got to put those ladder, well, not even mistakes. He flew them really well. He was just beaten in them by Silvio and Danube. Got to forget about that and just fly it as well as he's been doing and not worry if a green drone is just occasionally hovering in his view. He's managed to keep all of the race together. He's dealing with such brilliant pressure. He's just been outflown on that ladder. He hasn't made a mistake. Just SDT have just flown that ladder a little bit better. So he's doing what he's done in the last races. He's in the lead and he's making it all work. Bambi says Astronaut is the best wingman, a pilot. Bambi and Astronaut forever. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, Bambi. Blessed, half a second behind the Ice Cheetah. Astronaut now 2 seconds behind. It was a good race from him. He was keeping up. There was a gap of about a second, but he was hanging in there. But that slipped a little bit further away. Danube is, to be honest, I don't know. He looks a bit gutted. Top right, that's Danube at the very top of the screen. Looking a bit like, oh, well. Meanwhile, Blessed, focused underneath him against the Ice Cheetah for the win here. Lap number 3. Ice Cheetah flying those gorgeous clean lines still. Under the hurdle, Blessed nice and close to it as you need to be, and the pylon turn afterwards. And then we come to these rocks where you can't reach that quad in front of you, but you could daringly make it a little bit tight. Yeah, there we go. Blessed getting very close to one of those particular outcrops out of there. Managed to work it. The ladder is good for the Ice Cheetah. He's going to get the win at last. There he does. There he does. Ice Cheetah finally gets the point that he's been fighting for so much in the previous races. Astronaut is pleased with his finish there. Danube was twice as far behind and somehow managed to close the gap by 12 seconds. Don't know what that means. We'll move on. With that win, the Ice Cheetah helps Cyclone stay in this. It's now 3 points to 2, so they still have to win the rest of the races in this best of 7. And that's a twitchy and almost bumpy start for Sea Sky. But less than 1/10 of a second between all 4 pilots here. Silvio and Sea Sky, J-Box and Zion. And in these best of 7s, once we get past the big heat and we go into more 2v2s as we're doing now, you have to choose your pilots in different pairings. So you can't have the same 2v2s as you had at the start of the series. They have to be different in the next time we race them once we get past the big heat. J-Box, Sea Sky, switching places just at the front. Silvio, and then Zion. Zion just lost his grip on the fight for the lead for the moment. J-Box ahead of Sea Sky. Ladder's good from both of them. Gap hasn't changed. Silvio struggling to keep up with these two at the moment as well. Interesting the differences in performances from one race to another. J-Box, 1/10, Sea Sky. Zion and Silvio switching places at the back. J-Box, Sea Sky, pick one. 7 thousandths of a second, 1/10 of a second. Just every turn, both of the pilots showing us the best that they've got. We're in the lead there with J-Box. We'll see Sea Sky get ever so close to that extra pointy bit. 0.2 of a second. J-Box starting to get away as we head down towards the 2 lakes, which starts lap number 3. Zion's got ahead of Silvio, who's not having his best race. Sea Sky will be focused on J-Box being in front of him. He might be a little bit surprised if a purple drone just gets in his view as he makes his way up the cliff there. Zion's not quite close enough to do that just yet. He'll probably see him, maybe not. I thought he might see him as he switched back through that pair of gates. Sea Sky now half a second. Whoa, look how close he is to the rocks. You can see now he knows it's lap number 3. Silvio's with him, and both of them are coming for this point from J-Box. But they are flying dangerously to try and get it. They're into the arches. Yeah, Zion's been caught out. Sea Sky's been caught out. The rocks have claimed them. We're on board with Silvio. 0.3 of a second between him and J-Box. Down to the water. Both of them keeping a little bit further away from the rocks than particularly Silvio was doing earlier on. Sea Sky is now at the back. Silvio's coming for J-Box in the lead, but it's too much. Too late.
Let's go.
Zion's delighted for him. J-Box gets another win in his impressive season. And with that, it's 3-all. Now this is pretty rare. We're going to go to the best of 7th. The final race, and it's Danube against Zion. Now, as I've mentioned before, but we'll explain it again for all of you who have recently joined us. Every one of these duels between 2 teams is a best of 7. It goes 1v1, then a 2v2, then your other pilots race in the other 2v2. Then it's the big heat where everyone flies. Then a 2v2 and a 2v2 if we need them. And a final 1v1, which is what you're looking at now. This one between Danube and Zion. And the pilots for these races are chosen without knowing who your opposition have lined up against you. You have to pick your pilots for the 1v1s and the 2v2s and the pairings you're going to make before you line up, before race day comes around. You have to tell us in advance. So Danube didn't know he'd be racing Zion. Zion didn't know he'd be racing Danube. The teams haven't looked at this and gone, okay, we're going to put Danube in. We're going to choose it based on the races we've just seen. This was picked in advance. Danube putting in a strong flight so far, but Zion is keeping up with him excellently. And Zion is new to the DCL, as are Cyclone, of course, the whole team. But he's a new pilot to the DCL in his own right. Danube has been racing with us for years. So Zion, half a second behind Danube, halfway through the second lap. That is a strong showing by him. He's got to keep this up and find a bit more speed. Let's take a view on board with him. Half a second between him and the green drone of Spain drone team in front of him. He's going to make an early turn in on this. It's good, but the hesitation on the out of it just lost him a little bit of time rather than gained it. We're talking a tenth of a second. 0.6. Zion hanging on to Danube. This is good flying. Danube we saw, you know, an hour behind or something earlier on. All right, I think it was about 12 seconds, but it was 24 seconds at one point. Danube needs to keep off the rocks. Zion's got to give it everything he's got here. Half a second between them. It's going to be tricky to catch him on this final lap because Danube is flying very cleanly. No, he's not! You can bang on about commentators' curse in the chat if you want. I'm quite good at them. Zion. He's in front, but Danube is gaining on him. It's half a second the other way around now. Zion in the lead. He doesn't quite know where Danube is in space around him. Danube is attacking. Look at his early turns over the rocks. He's taking a 10th out of one turn, a 10th out of the next turn. He's gaining on him into this one as well. Coming out, and he's in front of him through the arches. There's brilliant speed flying from Danube, and he's left Zion behind. Zion has just maybe got a little bit put off or distracted by the flying of Danube because he's now half a second behind in the opposite direction again. Danube just ate that bit up over Pulpit Rock. What incredible flying. He's through the ladder. He's 0.3 of a second in the lead. He's home. He just earned that point, and Zion looks despondent at the bottom as he knows that means STT has won this series, which Cyclone were 3 all in. But, I mean, let's go back. Another little fly past. I think we'll go from about here. Zion's still in the lead here. But just this couple of gates coming up by Danube were perfect. Look at that early turn. 1/10 gone, another 10th gone. Heading to this one here. That is just so good. And the gap now, 0.4 of a second. That gets Danube the win here. That gets Danube the point here. That gets STT PERPETUUMCOIN the point here. That gets them the win over Cyclone Racing. A team effort, of course. All of the races matter in that, of course. But, wow, Danube really turned it on. STT PERPETUUMCOIN are the winners over Cyclone after that incredible series. You saw China Dragos 4-1 over Alpha Prop just then. Earlier, Quad Force 1 raced Xblades in an incredible 4-3. You can see that series on our YouTube channel. Raiden, the reigning world champions, beat Haven. STT had a great scrap with Cyclone. Wildcard team were a little bit one-sided over Mach 1. Xblades now tied with Quad Force 1 after they raced each other and Quad Force 1 won it. Tied on points, not quite on race wins though, as Quad Force 1 have lost 3 races more than Xblades. Then it's Cyclone, Raiden, STT and China Dragos, then the rest of the new teams are after that. So we'll go for one more race day on tonight's flight night, race day 7, where the best season STT PERPETUUMCOIN has ever had. We're going to see them racing today against Xblades. For this matchup, Xblades have brought Star 23467, Yayu, Drobot Racer, and Sully 1. Their opponents for STT PERPETUUMCOIN. From their roster, they've picked Silvio, Sea Sky, their captain Danube, and Shrimpy Boy. We're going to be racing around the beautiful site of Lake Zurich in Switzerland, where we finished our real-life Drone Racing World Championship Series at the end of 2018. Flying over the lake here with these 3 Torval gates, we're expecting tight corkscrews through there. Coming up, you go over, back through, and then a hard 180 out. 2 gates take you towards the land. We go up and down through these gates on the side of the buildings around this cone. Another angled gate to swing up through. And then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 plus an 8th GCL arch. This is the famous Rapperswil Castle. We then head back down behind it. 3 Foxeer tunnel gates. and swing back over the lake, where we visited a few fish in 2018. We're not expecting that in our virtual season. Xblades versus SDT. Let's get into the racing. It starts with the 1v1. Yayu is going up against Silvio. Out of the blocks, it's Xblades with Yayu in light blue and SDT PERPETUUMCOIN. Silvio is flying for the Spanish drone team in green and is just nicely tucked in behind Yayu as they were weaving their way there through the corkscrew towards the land. Silvio, quarter of a second behind Yayu in this early stage of lap 1, and there are 4 laps being raced in total. Through the arch tunnel, not a problem for Yayu. Silvio is attacking these corners. You see how close he was to the trees. What about the drop here? Let's see how he lines up. Very tight angle. Yayu must have flown about as well as Silvio did, as they're now on to lap number 2, and the gap hasn't really changed between them. Weaving through Asensio, here comes that corkscrew. Silvio dips just a little bit before it. 0.3 of a second, the gap now. So Yayu just trying to stretch away around this corner. Over the top for Silvio was very aggressive. Yayu still flying very well too. Now we'll come up to our tunnel along the main route here, where we had such a great crowd in 2018 watching our real-life racing. Then up and through the castle. 0.2 of a second. Silvio behind Yayu. He needs to make this drop tight again. He does, and into the Foxeer tunnel, he's gained by 0.1 of a second. Onto lap number 3. 0.1 of a second between the pair of them. And less now. Silvio is moving into the corkscrew. He could get right on the inside of Yayu and take this gap away. Yayu, in fact, has flown that fantastically well and is trying to leave Silvio behind. And Silvio, yes, over the water there. A little bit hesitant, lost a few 0.1 of a second, but still got time to catch it up as he aggressively comes into the tunnel. Again, sweeping through the trees, playing it as tight as he can, weaving now over the fantastic Rapperswil Castle with 0.5 a second between these two great pilots. Yayu flying very well here. We have seen him make some mistakes, though, so far this season in high-pressure situations. He needs to keep it together now because Silvio has halved the gap between them. Over the top, cutting back through. Silvio very aggressive on the exit of that. Yayu flying very cleanly up front. Up and down through those two, around this one, to the tunnel now. Silvio comes in on an angle. Yayu's got it covered. 0.3 of a second between them. To the castle. Up and over the top. Silvio can see Yayu the entire race. He's been in his vision. Yayu, slips beautifully through there, and Silvio almost went out too low. Here's the run for the finish, and it's Yayu who takes the first point for Xblades. Congratulations, Yayu, and he will be so pleased with such a clean race. And Silvio gave him pressure the whole time. Yayu stays on for the first of the 2v2s. Drobot joins him against Danube and Sea Sky for SDT. And everyone's away, and Yayu is into the Asensio gate already. And headed towards the Torvald corkscrew, and the rhythm has gone to pieces for him. He is 1.2 seconds behind everyone else. After that brilliant high-pressure win, the start of this could barely have gone worse. His teammate Drobot currently has the lead, but we're on board with Sea Sky for SDT, who is desperately trying to take it from him. 0.05 of a second between the two pilots. Now Sea Sky's in the front. On the drop down, it's not quite as good as Silvio's from the last race, which gave Drobot the chance to squeeze in front of him. But one pilot above the other, there's barely anything there. Starting lap number 2, we'll go back on board with Yayu to see how he lines up for the gate that caught him. He had to twitch for it again. Just ducked it a little bit to the left. His corkscrew is brilliantly tight, though. He's desperate to try and catch some quads. And ahead of him, Danube is now right next to him as Danube messed up that over and back out turn. So he's there for the taking by Yayu. But meanwhile, up front, Sea Sky is still trying to catch Drobot. The gap, 0.5 a second between them, but they're only on lap number 2, not even halfway through this race yet. Sea Sky's coming much better there into the Foxeer tunnel. Caught Drobot by a 10th. Now got to do a lot more like that. They'll go back towards the land. And there's that Asensio gate. No problem for either of them. They're into the corkscrew. Behind them is Yayu, who's in third now and has hit the inside of the corkscrew again. He'd passed Danube, but I think that was because Danube had lost a lot of time. Now he is even further behind at the back. Sea Sky is trying to get away at the front. Here's his view. Drobot is absent from it now that he's in front of him by 0.7 of a second, but he might just catch a little glimpse of him as he weaves around the castle. Come back down to the land, and that's bumpy for Sea Sky, and that's Drobot passing him. So tight together as we go on to the 4th and final lap. Heading back towards the land, these two guys will swing through Asensio, and the corkscrew needs to be great from Sea Sky. It's quite wide. Remember how tight Yayu's was earlier on? That's the sort of flying which has let Drobot get fractionally away from him here. Sea Sky chasing Drobot, quarter of a second between the two of them. Yayu a few seconds behind. Danube is having an absolute shocker and is way, way behind everybody else in this race. Drobot's flight over the castle is nice and smooth. Not too aggressive, but that's gone wrong. And that's right at the end. Sea Sky's in front of him now with only a couple of turns to go. To the water and the finish gate, and SDT take it.
He'll win.
Drobot and Sea Sky were switching the lead between them throughout that race. I think Drobot had it mostly, but right at the end, one turn and a mistake, and the point goes to SDT, and they tie up the series. This could be a really close battle. Let's bring in their teammates. Sally 1 and Star 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 for Xblades. Shrimpy Boy and Silvio returns from the opening 1v1. A good clean start for everybody. No problem at the Asensio gate here. Sally just slightly ahead of Silvio. Star 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 very much in the mix as well. Shrimpy Boy just a little bit behind at the moment, and we've seen in some races that he has got left behind, so he needs to get into contention right now. Star 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 is doing a great approach towards the first of the tunnels. Half a second almost behind his teammate. Here's Shrimpy Boy, who is half a second again behind third place. Ahead of him, the drop is good for both of the pilots, Silvio and Star. Yes, they're attacking the end of lap number 1. Salih here is attacking behind Shrimpy Boy. Silvio and Star side by side as they're going away the corkscrew on the second lap. Star just slightly behind Silvio round this turn. It's a very long one. It's hard to judge quite how tightly you can make that. Looking again here at Shrimpy Boy, who's having a similar battle with Salih 1 as his teammate Silvio is having with Star 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 at the front. As they enter into the DCL Arch tunnels, the battle for the lead is going on over the castle rooftop. Star and Silvio, 0.02 of a second between them. Again, that drop out of the castle is great. Star tries to make an extra tight turn on the inside as they come through the trees and realises, nope, Silvio is still in front of him. Lap number 3, swinging towards the water. How are the corkscrews from these two great pilots? Silvio's is nice and tight, and he's still into the lead. He's going very high over the DCL turn back, and he made it all right. Star caught him a little bit there, though. The gap is almost nothing. 0.07 of a second into the tunnel. Lap number 3. Silvio with Star. Over the roofs. Turn it back. Is it going to be as tight? Star's going a little bit more angular here. A little bit more 90 degrees, 180 degrees. Not as smooth as Silvio, who's almost half a second in front of him now. Fourth lap. Silvio needs to hold this together. The Asensio gate's fine. His route onto the corkscrew is nice, and it's very tight going round it. And in fact, he's pulled another tenth away from Star, and his route on that gate where you turn back much better than it was on lap number 3. He's up and through the angled gates, and there's the third one. Heading towards the tunnel now. Over half a second between him and Star, who's trying to chase him. Salih is still in third. Shrimpy Boy has dropped far behind and is out of contention. Silvio's route is good down towards the ground. Half a second in it, and surely the win. There it is for Silvio, and taking SDT to a 2-1 lead over Star. Salih is home, and Shrimpy Boy makes it now. Silvio lost the opening 1v1 against Yayu by only 0.2 of a second, but he's the outright winner here. Now the legendary DCL Big Heat. Everybody racing, 1 point for the winner, and SDT with a 2-1 lead over Xblades. Everybody within 0.1 of a second by the time they made it back to the water. Star here's got his 2 teammates in front of him. Danube's got 2 of his teammates in front of him and all of Xblades. He'll want to do his captain roll. Oh, but he's into the water. Never mind leading his teammates. He's at the back. The lead is all Xblades. 1, 2, 3, although Silvio's just taken 4th from Drobot. So there's a green drone in the mix. Star currently in 3rd. Salih and Yayu just in front of him. Star again. It's strange to see that his route through the drop after the castle isn't as good as it was in the earlier races of the day. With that, he's only just keeping ahead of Silvio, who's managed to get past Salih. And Star has caught the first and the second parts of the corkscrew and is just lost over Lake Zurich to make it out of the 3rd and is at the back. Silvio, who'd moved up into 3rd, has got 2nd now with Yayu just ahead of him. Looks like we're going to get a bit of a rematch to the first race of the day. Yayu up to the castle. Silvio just behind him. Salih half a second behind. Drobot in 4th. Here's Silvio doing what he can to try and catch Yayu, and he knows how good he is on this track. Yayu needs to find that clean race he had at the first of the day, and so he does go through the Asensio gate with no hiccups there. Danube Long way behind the action between his teammates, but getting caught on the middle of the corkscrew as well. As you can see, he was taking it very laterally, trying to go through it from left to right as fast as he could. But that sent him to the back now with 5.5 seconds of a deficit of the lead. Silvio has got Sully in battle for second and third, and Yayu is trying to get away from the pair of them. This is lap number 3. Silvio comes down through the trees. Slightly sort of blind run to the drop has worked out for him again. 1/10 of a second behind Silvio, and it's the final lap now. Up and back through Asensio. Silvio, the only green drone amongst a whole cloud of Xblades light blue ones. And the corkscrew is really good for him again. Up and over, slightly high for Silvio. That's let Yayu just get a fraction further ahead of him now. Sali is still 1/10 of a second behind him. You never give up in these races all the way to the finish. We're going to go into the tunnel now with Silvio trying to move up on Yayu, trying to get an extra point. Put Xblades under a lot of pressure from SDT. He's going to make his drop now. Yayu is flying even better. Through the Foxeer tunnel, Silvio was swinging a little bit. He's caught him by a 10, but it's not enough. Yayu's got the win. What a day he's having, much like his season so far. Brilliant performances and then a few mistakes in some races. It's a point. It's Xblades. It's tied up the series. 2-2 will continue in the best of 7. Now we go into another one of the 2v2s. The pilot pairings have to be different than earlier. So Drobot will race with Sully. Silvio comes back again, and Danube is alongside him this time. Now, we've not seen the best of Danube so far. We are seeing wonderful flying by Silvio, though. And he's in a battle for the lead, this time with Sully, as opposed to the earlier races with Yayu. Sully was trying to hang on to Silvio in that last race. He's got Silvio just fractionally behind him in the early parts of lap number 1. Silvio seems to be loving this course. His route down is blind here, but then the Foxeer gates... Yes, again, swinging a little bit around. It's almost like he's done the hard drop bit really well, but the straight line part after that, not quite so smooth. Here's Danube trying to get into this race. Here's his route through the corkscrew again. Oh, the third one's got him this time. You see how he's flying at 90 degrees to the gates to try and get across them so quickly. Hasn't managed it here. He's almost 4 seconds behind his teammates, but his teammate Silvio is still in the lead. So Lee can see him as he chases him through the tunnel and up to the castle. Bit higher there than he needed to be. That's tighter. Where's he going right now? That's a different route down to the drop. It sort of worked. It was nowhere near as aggressive as Silvio, and yet he's still in contention with 0.3 of a second between them. Now on to lap number 3. Sully into the corkscrew. 1 and 2. Bit low on that one. Bit too high on that one. Overcorrected, I think. That's lost the position to Drobot, his teammate. Silvio has almost a second of clear air between them now, out in front in the lead. Let's take a look from Drobot's view. Can he see Silvio at the other end of the tunnel? Just about, as he's gained a 10th on him. Slight bit of correction there, but he's still managing to gain time on Silvio all the way through. Not quite as aggressive as Silvio on the last part of that drop. Goes on to the final lap. 0.9 of a second between him and a point for Xblades. Weaves his way through the corkscrew. It's nice from both of them. It's 0.8 of a second. Silvio ahead of Drobot. Now down to less than 0.7. Silvio hanging on to the lead. Drobot trying to get it from him. And he's one of the most experienced pilots in the DCL. Been with us for so many years, racing with Xblades, winning multiple world championships in the past with Xblades. Coming for you, Silvio. It's less than half a second. Not enough time, though, left in this race for him to get him. It's going to be another point for Silvio. Drobot slams it in behind him. Salih finishes now. Danube is 6 seconds behind all of those. His teammate Silvio is getting it done for STT. The other 2v2, Star 23467 and Yayu against Sea Sky and Shrimpy Boy. STT in the lead here, 3 points to 2. Xblades have to win this race. Then it'll go to a do-or-die final race, a 1v1 in this best of 7 to take the whole thing. Sea Sky at the back, Shrimpy Boy in third. We're on board with Star 23467. He's got his teammate Yayu 0.4 of a second in front of him at the moment. This is the view of Yayu in the lead, rolled very far over as he goes down the straight there. That's interesting. Over the roofs he flies. All nice and tidy at the moment, and not a problem for Xblades, it looks. STT trying to get back into contention in this race, but it's looking pretty clean so far for Xblades. Maybe to get a 1-2. Here's Yayu as he's gone through Asensio. Comes to the corkscrew now. There's 1, 2, not the third yet. There it is. But, oh, Yayu on the inside of it. Gets a bit of a bump. He's still with Star, so Star wasn't that fast out of it. Here's Shrimpy Boy. Oh, getting caught on the gate on the way up. He's down through the second one, and he's lost a lot of time in doing those. Sea Sky still in third. The battle for the win, it's between Xblades and Xblades. Star going for it against Yayu. Between those trees at such a high speed, all these pilots being so brave as they go on to start the next lap. Yayu swings across Star there. What about the route through the corkscrews? The second one was very different. That second gate was very different for each of the pilots. But it's still quicker than SDT all the way along at the moment. Yayu doesn't have Star in front of him at the moment. Into the tunnel. Quarter of a second between the two of them. Could this turn into another one of those pressure situations for Yayu? There's no holding back from Xblades here. Star wants the lead, wants the point in the season, has got past Yayu. Yayu's in trouble. Sea Sky's got him as well. Star is out in the front. Sea Sky is in second. Yayu's had some scrappy flying around the end of the lap and is trying to get back ahead of Sea Sky, as we see now. Does the corkscrew like he's never had a problem with it in his life. That was amazing flying by Yayu. Now he heads to the climb, which caught Shrimpy Boy out. Oh, he's caught it as well. That's let Sea Sky through. Yayu's lost a lot of time. Sea Sky, though, between the Xblades pilots in the middle of a big gap, as Star has got Rapperswil to himself. Through the Foxear gates, the last turns now. As long as he doesn't hit one of these trees, he doesn't. He'll hit the finish gate. A big moment for Star there. He gets the win that Xblades absolutely needed. Big smile on his face. And some messy racing behind him. 3 all will go to the do or die 1v1, and guess what? It's Star again. He was picked for it. Danube is his opponent. This could be a little bit more one-sided than we've seen, but right now Danube is really close to Star. Great flying from him. Looked like Star was going to get caught out on the end of the corkscrew, but he hasn't been, and Danube is fractionally ahead of him. 1/100th of a second between the two pilots. Up and down, Danube getting caught out in between. Star goes into the lead, and there's 0.6 of a second, 0.7 of a second, and Danube really needs to shake off the problem he's had in the previous races and find the lines that have been eluding him as well, or Star is surely going to run off and take this series. Danube follows him onto the start of the lap number 2. 0.75 of a second between these two pilots. Danube's got to absolutely nail this while we're on board with him. It's not quite as lateral as it was before. Remember those 90-degree runs where he was flying so on edge around the corkscrew? He was a little bit more direct there, not quite so aggressive. It's worked. It's cut the gap. He's done the tricky pair of gates as well, and into the tunnel. No, he's hit the first arch. He'd done so many of the more tricky obstacles, but that route in, oh no, and now he's hit the castle. Oh, it's going from bad to worse for Danube. He's 2.5 seconds behind. Here's his view down the tunnel, and there is no sign of Star. Halfway through the race now, lap number 3, 2.2 seconds between them. He may well be able to see Star completing the corkscrew as Danube is making his approach towards it. It's worth pointing out that SDT PerpetuumCoin joined the DCL as a permanent team back in the year 2000, and they didn't beat any team at all for 2.5 years. The first team they ever beat was Xblades in an absolute shocker last season, but in the 11 times they've raced Xblades, they only beat them on that one occasion. So to be 3 points all with them now, and let's point out Danube is only 1 second behind as we go on to the final lap. This is an amazing performance from SDT PerpetuumCoin. They're in mid-table. They're in a real scrap with Xblades. Danube, though, on the corkscrew. No, just couldn't get through it. And now having problems. 1, 2. Oh, no, he's just put it into the side. That is over, you would think. 5 seconds behind. Surely Star 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 will know from his teammates that he's got the race in the bag. He can just fly a lovely looping knot over Rapperswil and put a bow on it. He's going to bring it home. Xblades are going to win this series, but they lost 3 races against SDT in doing so. That is a big performance for SDT. The win, of course, though, it's Xblades, the brilliant team out of the UK, the former world champions. They win, but it wasn't easy. Great showing by SDT. Commiserations to them, but what an improvement. 2 wins for Yayu. Star picking up 2 for Xblades, including that all-important final one. Silvio got 2 and Sea Sky the other point for SDT. Elsewhere on race day 7, we had a lot of 4-0 wins, but the big one is the last one on your screen there. Quad Force 1 getting a 4-0 over the wildcard team, because that means they didn't lose a race. Xblades just lost 3. That has tied Xblades and Quad Force 1 at the top of the leaderboard. Race day 8 will see us return to Reuter in Austria. Xblades will face Mach 1. STT PERPETUUMCOIN, who gave them such a fight. That's who's racing Quad Force 1. I've been Matt Andrews. Thank you very much for watching the DCL. We'll see you in the skies.